How's everybody doing? This is Mr. Sam. We're going to continue our discussion on fish, and today we're going to move past the agnatha, the jawless fish, and talk about the first couple jawed fish, namely the group called the Chondrichthyes. Chondrichthyes include the sharks and the rays. So let's talk about the evolution of the jaws very briefly. I'm not going to get too much into this, but the jaw is a very important step in the evolution of a fish. Actually, the evolution of all of us as vertebrates. It allows us to eat different prey, to chew our food more effectively, and all the fish, even the jawless fish from yesterday, and some of the other precursors to those fish, have these arches, um, basically made of cartilage, called gill arches that would be where the gills developed. And when jaws developed, the very first couple gill arches actually disappeared. So actually, they went away through evolution. And the third and the fourth ones evolved into what we call the jaws, our mandibles, that lower jaw. And the first jawed fish, these chondrichthyes, are going to have those. So a couple pictures here. Obviously, um, we have a very simplistic looking head of a fish, and going to the right, we get more advanced. This is what these gill slits would look like. The gill slits would be where the water comes in. These are like some sort of rod-like structures that would form these arches. Well, you have these arches in some fish, and these are eventually going to, these ones closer to the end of the head, these arches of cartilage around where the gills are. If you ever caught a fish, that's where the gills are, right behind the head of the fish, are going to morph into this green part here. And actually on this one too, it's there, which is your jaw. And they're going to actually come forward and become a little sturdier, become more structured, and form a jaw. Eventually, even these ones behind it are going to form support for and brace that jaw. And that's what you're going to see with the formation of the jaw. So it came from the gill arches are going to evolve into these mandibles and the maxilla of the top part. This is going to happen around the Devonian period of history. Obviously, if you don't know much about your history of life on Earth, Devonian is the fish developed before the amphibians, before the reptiles and dinosaurs and mammals. We all heard about the word Jurassic Park, and things like that. That's the period where dinosaurs were thriving. Well, fishes, they developed way earlier during the Devonian, which is roughly, about 400 to 300 millions of years ago. So a long time ago, these fishes developed. If you look at this cladogram, you might learn about these in biology class, of all pretty much fish species. Where jaws formed, which is right here, jaws actually developed right here in the development. So everything on this side do not have jaws, including your hagfish and lampreys. The higher up these things are, that means they're in present day. So hagfish, we talked about those yesterday. Lampreys, we talked about those. They don't have jaws because they're below this line in the family tree here, sort of. But everything above this line, right here where it says jaws, those are going to be your jawed fish, which include the chondrichthyes, sharks and rays, and the osteichthyes, the bony fish, and of course all of us too, the four-limbed tetrapods, which are represented by a frog, but that would include all of us, lizards, birds, things like that. So that's sort of what's happening there. Now, if you want to watch a video on the notes, I just posted the notes on Google Classroom. There's a really cool video about a type of eel that has actually a second set of jaws that can actually deliver what we're calling a death blow, but this is a picture, kind of scary. There's the first jaw, but there's a second jaw that's inside of it that can actually um, really do the job of getting this prey and taking care of them so they can ingest them. So watch that video from the notes. It's really, really cool. They're called pharyngeal jaws because it comes from the pharynx, the pharyngeal area of the fish. So some eel, it's a moray eel species, has these. Pretty cool. Let's talk about chondrichthyes. Chondr means cartilage. So if you're in anatomy class, you know what cartilage is. It's a substance that is a precursor to bone in organisms. And ichthy means fish. So chondrichthyes, cartilage fish. The entire structure of a shark and ray is made of cartilage, not bone. So it's chondrichthyes. Sharks, skates and rays. Skates are kind of in between sharks and rays. Um, those are going to be your biggest examples of Chondrichthyes species. Very first animals, obviously, with powerful jaws. These are not agnatha like yesterday. These are actually, they're going to have their jaws. They're going to have very powerful jaws to dispatch of prey. Um, for sure, the largest living vertebrates after the whales. Whales are obviously larger, but you have your great white sharks and things like that. And actually, in the history of life on Earth, there have been bigger ones than that. The whale shark nowadays is definitely the biggest one. Don't think of it. Usually, everyone thinks great white shark, but the whale shark, a filter feeder, is about 60 feet long. It's a really large species of shark. The great white shark is about 20 feet. So in comparison, the whale shark is a lot bigger. Not as dangerous because it's a filter feeder, but definitely a large representative of the Chondrichthyes um, group. This is the cartilaginous skeleton of a shark. This would be if you took an X-ray of a shark. That's where all the cartilage would be. Obviously, all the organs would be in here. Um, Everything is made of cartilage, a softer substance than bone is. Inside the fins, there's obviously the vertebral column there. They got these gill arches. You got the cranium protecting the brain, the sense organs. You have cartilage in your body, between your joints, between your vertebrae. All of these things are made of cartilage in your body. So you still have some in yours, your ear, your nose. These are some examples of some sharks and their size. Um, the whale shark being pretty big, basking sharks pretty big. That's a diver for comparison. All these would have cartilage in them. There's some really small ones too. The spiny pygmy shark is really, really tiny. Um, Great white sharks are absolutely big if you compare them to a human. Nurse sharks, the saw shark, which was the animal of the day today, all great examples of sharks. Um, their teeth actually are um, part of this um, jaw structure that they replace them a lot. We'll talk about that later. But this is a general look at what a shark looks like. The rostrum is the nose. That's what nose means. There's nostrils, a spiracle behind it for intake of just different of water and things. The spine in between, right in front of the door, that's actually a harder piece of substance right in front of the dorsal fin. The dorsal fin is what pokes up through behind in the water. Sometimes there's a second dorsal fin, and the caudal fin. Sharks usually have this heterocircal tail where the top part is bigger than the bottom part. Males are going to have claspers, these little things off the pelvic fin. Females will not have those. And there's the pectoral fin, which is really big and raised. Actually, it connects to the head. And then it has these external gill openings that lead to the gills. Megalodon was the largest predatory shark ever known, 18 meters long. Comparing it to the largest ever great white there, Megalodon was huge. Even the lower estimate ones were huge compared to everything else. And compared to a human, tremendously large organism. It was the super predator of the day for sure, feeding on whales and other sharks and fish. It was as big as a whale, so it could definitely feed on them. We have fossil evidence for this, but unfortunately, it died out about 2.6 million years ago, probably due to ocean cooling. Um, ocean ocean cooling, the temperatures dropped, and that was not good for megalodon. And the ocean was a little bit different back then. Obviously, South America was a little bit more water, and that's where we find some megalodon species. Cartilage does not fossilize very well, but the teeth are a little bit more resilient. So we actually have found teeth, and if the teeth were that big, this is how big the jaw would have to be. This is how we know how big megalodon were. That's a big man, and that's a really big shark. So the fossil evidence is there for these for sure. One of the last things we'll talk about today is the scales of a shark. If you ever rub if we go to the Newport Aquarium, if you rub the opposite way, it actually kind of feels like sandpaper almost, because they have these placoid scales, which are actually tooth-like. They actually have tooth-like proteins, enamel and dentine, which it looks like this if you look at it very microscopically. So obviously, if you rub one way, it's going to feel kind of smooth. If you rub the other way, it's going to be kind of pointy. Other fish, bony fishes, and things we'll talk about later, have a little bit more, I guess, flat, more not as I guess tooth-like scales, but all sharks and rays have these placoid scales, they're called. And their teeth are actually modified scales. So they're actually made of these same dentine and enamel. They're made of harder substances. That's why they survive fossilized a little bit more. And it's basically like a conveyor belt, almost like a chainsaw, I almost think, where this is where they start forming, and they keep on, they have multiple layers of teeth. And when they lose one, and you can find shark teeth everywhere, they just lose it, and another one replaces it. And it's a way of always having sharp teeth, which is pretty cool. Now, this skin that sharks have, if you want to watch one more video on the actual notes that are on Google Classroom, we found that shark skin is actually barnacle resistant. Barnacles don't like to grow on it. So scientists are actually looking at this skin that has and what properties it has that make it so. Why is it barnacle resistant? Can we do the same thing for boats so boats don't have barnacles growing on them? Be a pretty cool thing. Most of them are carnivorous, obviously with these teeth and the scales they have. I mean, they're built for being a predator. They're carnivorous. Even the dwarf lantern shark at 0.2 meters it eats krill. It's a carnivore, up to the great white shark. So I'll end there. Tomorrow we'll start talking about a little bit more about their senses and things like that. But I hope this made some sense. Our first little foray into chondrichthyes. It will be a continuation again tomorrow to some other information. But I hope this video leaves you wanting to know more information. So tomorrow we'll do a couple more notes. You guys have a great day. Bye.